Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started here right at 9 a.m. We will speak to you shortly.
All right. Here we go, Ted. You ready?
All righty. Hey, well, good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our webinar this morning. My name is Ted Harris. I am the Executive Vice President of the Pennsylvania Petroleum Association. We have a handful of our members joining this webinar, but then we also have some companies from across the country joining this morning. So on behalf of the PPA, I would like to welcome you. We've been doing this webinar series for over 5 years, typically do it first Tuesday of the month throughout the year, and we have a wide range of topics such as members like you're going to hear from today with Fleet Panda that are subject matter experts within their field. We bring in government stakeholders, other topics as well that are meant to be timely and relevant for your business. So before we get started in the presentation today, just a couple quick housekeeping items. You all as an attendee are going to be on mute, but we really are hoping for engagement with this webinar. The topic itself is, I think, really interesting and really timely. So the way you can engage is going to be 2 different ways. One is going to be using the question feature and go to webinar to type in questions, and I encourage you to do that as we go through, and I'll basically interrupt Mike and kind of get him to stop and answer your question. And then the second way to do that is going to be we have a couple different interactive polls that Fleet Panda has put together, and really hoping that you all can engage that way throughout the webinar. So please keep that in mind. We want this to be interactive, and we look forward to that. So at this point, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Mike. Mike is with Fleet Panda. He's the VP of Sales, and his topic is going to be why, when, and how to use AI in fuel marketing operations. So Mike, I will pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. Yeah. And for the group, I know it's early, so I always like to start off by just saying I try to keep this as least boring as possible. You heard VP of Sales. I promise I'm not giving a sales pitch. You won't get that from me today. I really think webinars need to be sticking to the point. It should be a learning experience. You should be able to walk away today having a pretty good understanding about just really, like, if you know what AI is at a high level. We're not going to go into too much technical detail. But if you already know that, you should know where you can deploy it, how you can deploy it, the timing in which you can do so, and what you need to be able to deploy AI. So that's kind of the goals. If you don't walk away with those, then I feel like I've failed my job in the next hour. So I'll make sure I do that to the best of my ability here. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I think everybody's starting to join in, and we'll get this on the road. Okay. All right, so a little bit of backstory just on why we're talking to you and why we know a little bit about AI, right? And then I'll kind of get into mine, is because we are a tech-focused team. Yes, we did some fleet fueling, we did some stuff up in kind of the Bay Area, San Francisco, but we were tech engineers. We built the tool ourselves. And we do understand your world, right? We do know the dispatching world, and we do know the fuel side of stuff, but we also know the tech side, because that's where we were kind of born and how we kind of grew up there. So just a little bit of background on why it is that we feel like we're able to give you this presentation. And then, like I said, or like Ted said, VP of Sales here at Fleet Panda. This is myself. Yep. Holding a baby chick. It was actually my daughter's birthday party there. But a little bit of background on me. Spent 6 years in the military. Worked with AI there before I kind of came out to the civilian side. And then once I got out, I actually worked at 2 companies primarily focused in AI. And so we had a lot of experience just kind of at the core focus of it, how AI was supposed to be used and where people could deploy it. And so like Ted said, if you have any questions throughout this entire presentation, please stop me, ask me, put them into the chat. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask questions. All right. So for today, we're going to cover 4 key areas. So just what is AI, right? Like I said, we're going to go high level. We're not going to go super deep and technical. I want to make sure everybody is staying on the same wavelength as far as kind of technical expertise goes. And then where you can use it. So your day-to-day job, what you're going to be doing as fuel marketer or owner. And then is your business ready for it, which is, I think, personally, the most important portion of AI. And then lastly, how you go about it. Honestly, once you're ready for AI, you're already, ready to go to deploy it. And so it's just more so focusing you on where it is the potential to deploy AI.
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna launch this first poll here. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I think, yep, I see that there. Okay, so I'm gonna give everybody a second to kind of answer this, and then we'll go there. Okay, all right. Okay, poll's gonna keep running in the background, and then I'm gonna keep going here. Okay, so if you think about your company overall, I want all of you to think independently about where you work and who you're working for or the company that you own, okay? And think about some of the problems that you're facing. You probably hear about them every day or you probably go about them. Most of those problems can likely be solved by AI, but there's a lot of steps to kind of get there first. And what I mean by that is your process might look something like this right now, right? So right now, if you think about what you guys are doing as a company and kind of where you are as a business, you've probably got this kind of crazy flow of how to get from, you're receiving an order, right? You're trying to grow, you've got all your pricing, you're working with your different vendors, you're working with, all of your different suppliers, and then you're trying to, edge out the different competitions and all sorts of stuff, right? To ultimately the end scenario, which is you exiting either the company or walking out the door every day with a successful business, right? And so it's a pretty tricky scenario, but luckily, you have an ideal state, right? And most people, that ideal state looks like this. It's, hey, look, I'm here and I want to get to the door, right? I want to walk out every day and be living in success. And it's okay. AI is going to answer all those problems, right? That's what everybody says now. It's just a joke, right? When people say that AI is going to answer your problems, yeah, it's true, but it also has a lot of problems, right? And so there's this huge landscape. I like this graphic because it shows, it's an uphill battle, right? It's 2 teams, they're playing, but it's an uphill battle, and then you have industry giants who have all this data, they have all the money, they have the means, right? They have all the tech teams, and then you have your mid-size and your small teams that look like they feel like you're kind of running up a hill. You're trying to compete. And you're trying to actually use modern technology. But as we all know, modern technology is expensive, right? The benefits, though, can kind of follow suit. And so we'll talk through how you can get started and all of that. But most importantly, we got to start with what it even is, right? So what is AI? You're probably using it now, okay? It's already embedded in our day-to-day lives. I like to tell people, if you have a phone, right, it's got AI on it. All the voice recognition, the asking Siri questions, it looking up things, making its own analysis, similar to it. It's not like super advanced, but it's there. You have your insurance companies that do AI when it comes to claim processing. Major logistic operations, think like Amazon, right? They're using it for route optimization, or Uber, Lyft, things that you use on a day-to-day basis, uses AI to be able to route you, right? And their drivers. And then obviously your bank uses it all the time for fraud detections, and so on and so forth. And so it's embedded, it's embedded in your day-to-day life more so than you may know it. And I think another poll just came out. So if you guys want to kind of answer that as you can, that'd be great. But at a very simple level, okay, AI is very similar to traditional programming, to the traditional way that you do things. Both of them, right, give you some sort of answer, right? But one of them uses rules plus data to give you an answer, right? So you tell it, hey, here's what I want you to do. Look at the internet and give me an answer. So think of this like a Google search, right? Versus the other one has all the data, right, already, and gives you the answer based on the rules that you're giving it. So you're saying, look, this is what I want you to look. Here's the rules I'm giving you, right? Here's my chat. Here's kind of my prompt, right? And then give me an answer, right? And so it's looking at everything else, all the answers that have already been out there, and then it's performing its own kind of analysis. And so one is very static and predictable, right? I like to say, think of that as like your degree days, right? For the most part, it's static, it's predictable. The only difference is it's taking into account weather trends, but it's predictable, right? Adaptive and improving, think of that as your, your AI routing, your, looking into all sorts of stuff in the future and what days and all sorts of different things that are gonna give you some sort of different analysis, right? And so it's essentially just pattern recognition on steroids. So it's like a human brain that just can answer things 100 times faster than the average person, right? All right. So you've kind of got four key areas that AI is going to look at for you all, right? So you have data collection, which is where it's going to start, okay? And that's going to be your delivery times, your loading times. It's going to know how long it takes for Ted to load at a terminal versus Mike. It's going to know how long it takes for Mike to deliver to ABC Trucking versus Ted, right? It's going to collect all of that data at a very, very deep level. Then from that, it's going to look at all the data and perform some sort of pattern recognition. And so it's going to find out, okay, when Mike drives this way, he's losing time on his route, right? But when he drives this way, he's gaining time. And so, that's one way. It's going to say, okay, well, every time we deliver to ABC Trucking, they pay us late. And so it's going to tell you that, right? It's going to notify you. And so you'll notice that AI doesn't just work for dispatching, it works across all facets of your business, and we'll talk about that. Then from there, once you have the patterns and once the AI tells you, hey, look, here's all these things that I'm seeing, you get to make decision making, right? And you're going to be able to say, okay, give me the best route then. I want you to do that, right? Or you can make it. Tell me what the best price would be, and then you get to approve that. When should we be reordering fuel for this location? Or hey, automatically tell me when to reorder fuel for that location, right? You as a human are getting to use the AI to your advantage. So you get to give it the level of autonomy to make a decision that you think you're comfortable with. I do want to point that out, right? A lot of people think that AI is just going to make decisions itself, but at the end of the day, you're going to be able to give it the level of autonomy that you think it deserves. Okay. And then lastly, it's that continuous learning piece that is just impeccable, especially when you think about deploying an AI in your business. It's going to continue to learn what makes your company great and very bad. As business owners, I think one thing that people fail to do is we fail to recognize the gaps in our business, right? We don't like to think that they're there. We know there's problems, but we like to push off with the solution to those sometimes. And I think one thing that AI just does is it takes that bias out and says, listen, here's what we do great, here's what we do really bad, and if we don't fix the bad, here's what's going to happen. And so it just gives you the ability to continuously make better business decisions. All right, so everybody loves a good onion analogy, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. AI is kind of like peeling back an onion, right? You're interacting with the AI. So AI is kind of what you're interacting with. That is the chat, the chat GPT prompting, the give me this answer type stuff, the thing that mimics a human, right? It's kind of like talking to your best friend, okay? And then machine learning is the peel back from that. So what's helping the AI is the machine learning. So it's all the learning that it's doing from the data, right? It's a technique that a computer can learn from, and then uses complex sets of rules, right, that you're giving it. And then at the very core of it is the deep learning. So it's this technique that allows for machine learning, right? That's inspired by, really your own brain. So essentially, data scientists and computer scientists said, look, well, what if we could build a computer that essentially had a brain, right? And so it built this very, very cool thing called, deep learning. And that's what ultimately is what's storing everything and mimicking the human brain that allows you to interact with the AI. Here, I'm going to stop for a second. And I just want to reiterate, I know we're about 15 minutes in. Please ask questions if you have them. I promise you won't be interrupting me. I will stop what I'm doing and I will answer the question. And then as far as that goes, we're going to go ahead and continue. All right. So we covered what AI is. Okay, like I said, I promised we're going to keep it high level. I know it's first thing in the morning, so I'm not going to get too technical there. Now we get into the fun stuff. Okay, so we're going to talk about some use cases for AI in the next few slides here, and then we're going to go into if your business is ready. And then in that section, in that third section, we've got a really cool slide for you that tells you basically a pyramid of exactly what you need to do to be there. So make sure you stick around for that. Okay. All right, so where can you deploy AI? Like I mentioned, it can be deployed in every facet of your business, right? So you have obviously the logistics portion, you've got sourcing, you've got customer support, back office stuff, marketing stuff. You kind of pick the areas that you think you're ready for, and then you can deploy it. And we're going to go into each one of these. So most common, okay, that I hear, because we're a dispatch company, is, hey, I want route optimization. 99% of people who come to me and say they want route optimization aren't even close to being ready for route optimization. However, a lot of the people who come to me saying that they want to use AI would be ready for something like accounting, back office, AI stuff, or demand forecasting, right? Most people are using something pretty similar, and almost everybody is ready already for the customer support and the marketing and sales stuff. And so we'll go through each one of these kind of individually. But when we go through these use cases, what you'll realize is there's one critical driver to everything, which is having data in a central place, okay? I don't care where that place is, but you have to have access to your data, and it needs to be on a system that other people can interact with. If it's not, then you're way behind the power curve, right? If your back office provider, I'd actually be interested if people want to put this into the chat. If you're on a back office that doesn't allow for an API connection, right, to other systems, and for those who don't know what that is, an API is just real-time data syncing between two systems. Maybe drop like a 1 or a 0 in the chat. But if you are on a system that's using an API, put like a 4 in the chat, right? If you want, don't have to, but if you want. I'd just be interested to see what everybody's saying. Okay, we're going to start off with the optimized routing portion because I think everybody's going to, want to hear that part first. So what is optimized routing, right? At the end of the day, it's an AI that is going to create everything for you, right? There's a lot of people that are out there that say, oh, I use routing, I use optimized routing, my dispatch system creates my routes for me. That's not really optimized routing, right? Optimized routing looks at real-time data and knows, like I said, how long it takes for certain drivers to do certain things. It takes all the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of orders that you have in a day and says, all right, here's how many trucks you have. Here's how many drivers you have. I'm going to automatically assign all these orders to these people based on the parameters that you give me, right? Like, do you want people to go into overtime? Do you want, whatever you want, right? You don't want to spend or you get a lot of penalty cost when you miss a delivery window. So you want to make sure that delivery windows are there and you don't care about overtime. You name it, right? You give it the parameters. And then it's going to use those to create a load order. So it's going to tell the driver, hey, based on all the retained in your truck, here's where you need to go load, right? Or you don't have any, so you need to go load at the bulk plant or the warehouse. It's going to do all of that for you automatically. And then once it does that, it's going to publish those routes to the drivers, right, for the dispatcher. And the dispatcher can review them and everything else. But that is true optimized routing, right? The optimized routing truly at the core level is using an AI to one click create your route, okay? And you will not be able to find a system that you can start off with. I always like to tell everybody that. I've heard way too much in specifically the oil and gas industry. I think it's just because there's a little bit less of a knowledge when it comes to the AI space here, but you won't be able to start off with something like optimized routing. No matter what system you go to, you need data, right? And so that data is going to be the driver for you to have, a critical success with routing. Okay, what are some of the benefits, right? And so I think if you talk about the benefit to what optimized routing has, it really boils down to look, you're making more money, right? Which everybody wants to do. You're going to have less zero runs. You're going to have less time on planning. You need less dispatchers. You know, you can make decisions faster. You can decide if you want to reduce overtime. You know, your trucks are probably, I always emphasize this part, you're probably going to get less wear and tear, or less, at least wear and tear on the trucks from mileage, because theoretically speaking, you know, it's giving you the best route, which should be less miles, but you know, there's a lot of other factors that kind of go into that. But you should have an increase in gallons delivered per hour, because you are supposed to be going to better stops in a closer vicinity. Okay. All right. So the accounting portion, okay? And I put this here because I think that's probably the next most important thing for everybody. So what does the successful, you know, back office kind of AI mark look like? Well, it's more of what we call an RPA. Okay, so it's more of a robot processing agent. It's not so much an AI. Okay, it's a little bit different. It's essentially, think of it as like a robot, right? It's a bot. And what it does is it takes all of your orders and it can automatically create an invoice, right? So it can say, hey, here's all the data, boom, click a button, it creates the invoice automatically. So you don't have to do anything. Most times you don't even have to click a button. It just recognizes that all the data is there and it creates the invoice automatically. It can handle, you know, closing your accounts on a monthly basis, and, you know, making sure that you're paying, you know, paying bills, or you're automatically, you know, running payables, things like that. Okay. Ultimately, it's just cutting down your cost. You know, usually people need less, you know, accounting folks. And then, you know, you can get to same day billing. It blows my mind that a lot of people still don't have same day billing. Now I know payment terms, some people say, hey, it doesn't really matter when I get the bill out, because payment terms are, you know, never upon receipt, but for some people they are, right? Especially for the folks that are on this call. I know we're, you know, talking to majority of Pennsylvania people who are running, you know, propane or heating oil and things like that during the winter. Some of those accounts are paying upon receipt. And so same day billing does help you collect cash faster. All right. Demand forecasting is, I would say, the third most important thing here for everybody on the call. And that's going to say, okay, look, right now, the challenges that people have is, you know, you need a lot of people to say, okay, well, I think this order should go out, right? So it can be inaccurate sometimes, because at the end of the day, someone's making a decision to do this. You don't have all the data at your fingertips. Sometimes it's lagging. So what I mean by lagging predictions is you could have drastic weather patterns, right? A degree days function is not going to take into account drastic weather patterns. You know, if you go to South Dakota, Sturgis, that is going to be a lagging prediction, right? Sometimes it is historical, Sturgis is going to happen, but at the end of the day, not a lot of systems, especially like a degree day system, is going to recognize that that's what's happening. And so when you talk about, you know, data that you need for AI forecasting, you're really looking at all of your historical sales data, the volumes that are sold. Think of it like a C-store. They usually know exactly when they're going to go out, because they know when all of their periods of business are, outside of some anomaly days, right? And so, you know, when you're going to sell stuff, daily and seasonally fluctuations, and then customer data, right? How often are they purchasing? What are the volume patterns and stuff like that? And so ultimately what that's going to do for the demand forecasting section here is, you know, it's going to take that and it's going to help the AI build a model that says, listen, I know when this location is going to go out of fuel, right? Whether it's a depot or a gas station or whatever, and you need to create an order now and dispatch it for tomorrow, right? Or you need to create an order now and it needs to go out within the next X amount of hours. So it's really helping your dispatchers and the rest of your team make decisions there, right? That's how AI is used when it comes to demand forecasting. Ultimately, I think we all know what the actual impact of that's going to be, but McKinsey did a little study on it, and they found that, you know, you can reduce excess inventory by 15 to 30%, and cut procurement costs by up to 10% by effectively doing, you know, demand forecasting on the tank side. All right, so this one's a little bit more boring, but customer support. How many of us actually get a bunch of customer support calls? We get, customers constantly asking where an order is, if it's been dispatched, if it's been delivered, right? Can you get a copy of a delivery ticket? They're trying to do taxes at the end of the year, so they call you and ask for all sorts of information. A lot of virtual, assistants, chatbots can just take care of that stuff, right? So they can use what's called an NLP, natural language processing, to understand what you're saying and then basically respond to it in a conversational way. Really good example of this is like if anybody's ever used like the Delta texting, right? If you ever fly in Delta, you can text with, an AI and it can actually, answer some of your questions. I think most of us are familiar with this because, like you call your bank, talk to an automated, assistant, and most of you are probably like human, because you just don't want to deal with it. Well, if you stick around for some of that stuff and you let it actually answer some of your questions, sometimes it can be really good. But if you're like me and you just want to talk to a human, then you're probably just like pounding zero or just saying human. But I think we all know how that why that's out there. But at the end of the day, it does help the companies who deploy it, right? And so 50 to 70% of the people that are at a company for customer support talk about the fact that they have less queries to answer, right? And so it does give you 24/7 support, whether that's with a human or not, right? You do have an AI that can answer questions, and so technically it would give you 24/7 support, right? And so all that stuff is things that businesses like yourselves can use to kind of, put on a website and share with your, with your customers. Okay, marketing and sales creation. Man, there's so many cool things that can be used here. I'm sure we all know what ChatGPT is, right? There are video AI tools. There are actually like companies that are out there. Like, I don't know if you guys watched Coca-Cola's commercials during the winter, if any of you watch TV, but they actually used for their winter commercial AI to make the entire thing. Aired it on TV. It was cool, right? Some people had the things to say about it, how they felt like Coca-Cola, cheated the system a little bit, but it was cool. It was the first time that like a major company deployed a huge ad using AI to create something. It was awesome, right? And then there's systems that are out there for the sales team, like Salesforce and HubSpot, that they can use AI to say, listen, you should call this customer. I think they need something from you, or hey, this customer may potentially buy from you. You should look at this, or this person's been on your website, right? Here's something you should send them. It can draft emails for your sales team. It can do all sorts of stuff. So I do think that like out of all of the slides that you have seen so far, when it comes to use cases for AI and fuel marketing, I hope you walked away understanding from that section that you can use AI everywhere in your company. And it doesn't have to be you as an individual person on this webinar that owns the entire deployment, right? I think a sales leader should be more than ready or enough to bring on their own CRM and own their AI process, right? It's most of it's turning on with a click of a button and just entering a prompt, right? And so you can use it from, like I said, sales and marketing all the way up to routing. It's just where are you comfortable, right? And ultimately, are you ready for that, right? And is your company ready? And this is one of the slides that I said I hope you stick around for. So if we're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, think of that, but for AI, right? And so we kind of recreated it and we said, hey, listen, here's what a business needs to be able to be ready for AI and when you should implement it, okay? Ultimately, you have to kill the paper and spreadsheets. Like I mentioned before, you need to be on a system that's API-able. And with that, that system cannot rely on spreadsheets, okay? If you have paper and spreadsheets, you're setting yourself back. It's the one thing you got to get rid of first. Okay, once you do that, which is a feat in and of itself, then you have to unify your business lines. If I could see everybody, I would say raise your hand for how many of you use different dispatch systems, right? Or some cases use a different back office, right? Across the different companies. I have a company who I know that's on our software. They have, like a propane line, a fuel line, and a lubricants line. And all three of them are on a different dispatch system and a different back office. It's going to be hard, but you got to get everything into one, right? It's got to be that unified center for data. if you remember the first section we talked about. Okay, that's that integrated tech stack. So what's going to happen once you unify your business lines and your workflows and everything else, you're going to be able to have a system. You have to have systems that can API to each other. So that automatic interface between two systems, it's got to be there, right? It has to be in real time. You can't download a flat file and upload it into something, or download a flat file and have an FTP bring it in. It can't be done, okay? And then you need to, from there, once you have all of your tech stack integrated, you got to start eliminating some steps yourself, okay? So you need to eliminate any extra steps that you have put in and start to gain some efficiencies by yourself. You have to see what an efficient workflow looks like. You can't, like everybody always says, you got to crawl before you run. If you don't eliminate some of the steps yourself, once you consolidate your stuff as a business, you are not going to have anybody in the company ready to trust an AI, right? I can't tell you one dispatcher that I know that would go from pen and paper, doing it themselves, to clicking a button just because you said, hey, look, you're going to use this new system. They just won't trust it. They won't believe it. Okay.
Hey, Mike.
And then, yep, go ahead, Ted.
Hey, we do have a question that came in, and I'm just going to read it here for you. What are good examples of AI virtual assistants for fuel company customer service?
Drift is one. So actually I can go back. Let's go back. Okay. So we put some in there right here. So if you look at it for customer service, Intercom, these are some companies right here. Intercom and Drift, those are both really good companies. Actually, I've sold to both of them in the past. So they're really good software companies. They've been around for a long time. They're very successful. And then you have some newer up and coming ones as well. So some startups. It just depends on what you're kind of feeling. Intercom is a very big company. It's an enterprise. Drift is an enterprise now, but they've kind of just gotten to that point. But I would say those two are probably your best bets. And then you also have some that are like that are out there as well. I won't get into kind of all the names, but if you shoot me an email, my email is mikew@fleetpanda.com, just for everybody on the call. If you have questions, ask me, right? Shoot me an email. That question right there, if you want to know more than just those two, ask me. I'm happy to send you a couple companies when it comes to virtual AI chatbots and things for customer support or anything else. Cool. All right. So, and thank you, Ted, by the way. Thank you for asking that question there. All right. So once we eliminate all those steps, from there, we have to start making data-driven decisions. So as you collect and you collect automatic and accurate data, right? You got to be ready to start making decisions. So now that you have data, you need to do something with it, right? You have to understand, okay, if I have all this data, do I hire more drivers? Do I hire more trucks? Do I, am I ready to let an AI start to kind of tell me what to do? Because that's kind of what is limiting you from that hiring AI portion. It really is a hire. If you think about hiring like a COO or a VP or even just a dispatcher or a driver, you have to make a decision if that person is going to create a better plan and be able to provide you something, right, in exchange for you hiring them. It's the same thing with AI. If you're not ready for AI to create a plan for you and provide you analysis, you're wasting your time and your money, right? Because if you're not going to trust it, don't hire it, right? So that's really the only thing stopping you from making data-driven decisions into hiring an AI. And I like this graphic. I think we all know it. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but garbage in, garbage out, right? I think this is more so just like life advice, but also we forget it sometimes at work, right? If you hear a company telling you, hey, we can put you on optimized routing right away, or hey, come onto our company, we'll import all your data from spreadsheets and we'll give you this mastermind of AI. I mean, you gotta think about that, right? Think about it a little bit. If you have garbage going in, you're probably going to get garbage out, right? You're not going to be happy with that, and ultimately you just need to make sure, like I said before, you're digitizing across the board. You have clean data, everything's happening in real time, and then from there you can start to scale up, right? You got to crawl, then you got to walk, and then I say you jog, you run, and you sprint, right? With AI, you kind of add the jogging in because there's an extra step there. Okay. Well, when should you not do it? I think we all know this, but if you, like I said, if you go to a company and you say, hey, I want to optimize routing and I need it within, this says 60 days. I tell people, if you need it within a year, I won't sell it to you, right? You probably don't hear that from VPs all the time, especially VPs of sales, but it's true. Your AI, even like, think about this. ChatGPT has access to the entire internet, still gets things wrong. Probably why it gets things wrong, because there's a lot of inaccurate stuff out there, but there are some AIs that don't have access to the internet. They have access to very specific data sets, and those AIs are extremely effective, right? There are companies that are out there that that's all they do is they say, look, we're going to deploy an AI for your company, right? And that's really, if you think about it, optimized routing, how it should be. You need data on top of data on top of data. So after about a year and a half to 2 years, you should have a pretty good amount of data to be able to have a confident AI making routing decisions and plans for your company. And then every year after that, it just gets better and better and better, right? And then ultimately, it's expensive. Okay. I would love to tell everybody AI is cheap. It's not. No, none of the companies that are out there have open AI budgets that are trillions and trillions of dollars of government funding and venture-backed funding to be able to charge customers 40, 80, $100 a month, right? It's not happening when you talk about AI for an oil and gas company. Okay, all right. And then ultimately, how do you go about deploying it? And we're almost done here, so hopefully I can give everybody back maybe 10 minutes of everybody's day here. So I've got my last few slides here, and then we'll kind of wrap it up at the end, answer questions and things like that. All right. So when it comes to AI, you got to start small. And then once you start small, you can start to scale pretty fast. Okay. So step one is establishing that structured database with over a year of data. So remember when I said a year, if it's less than a year, I won't sell it to you. If it's over a year, we can talk, right? Because now we'll have some data. But once you have that data, you have to say, okay, look, we're gonna have a specific area, okay? We're gonna take like the city of Atlanta, and we're gonna start to do demand forecasting and fleet efficiency for that city. And then once we do that, we're gonna test it with, say for instance, this pocket. And then once we prove that that works out, what we're going to do is we're going to track and analyze, okay, how did the AI do? Did it do well? Did it save me money? Did it save me time? Did my drivers drive less miles? Were they delivering faster, right? So on and so forth. And then once you're comfortable with the decisions that the AI is making and how your driver is being affected or your dispatcher is being affected, from that point is where you can start to say, okay, let's take this AI and move it into other areas of the business or across the the organization as a whole, right? So maybe if you're just delivering in Pittsburgh, okay, well now maybe you're just instead of just doing it in the city of Pittsburgh, you're going to go outside of the entire state of Pennsylvania, right? And so it's just one example of how you can start really small and start to grow pretty quickly. Okay. And then ultimately, like, is AI powered, digital transformation really something that you guys should care about? I guess that's a question for yourself. I like to stop on this slide, and I mainly think the reason why I do is because this is a really good question, right? Do you care about it? Do you actually care about the things that AI can do for you? Some companies don't. Some companies are comfortable with their own process, staying small, being comfortable with what they do. They're ready to do the things themselves. Maybe they want their data to be digitally just so they're ready for the future when it comes. But some companies genuinely don't care about AI, and that's fine. Even if you're on this webinar, it's fine, right? But you should be, I would say knowledge is power, right? You should be at least knowledgeable of what it can do, right? And when you should care about it. And so when this survey went out from Forrester, and it went out to a bunch of oil and gas companies, okay? And it said, hey, what are the organization's top business priorities? And I found this part funny. Most people said maximize revenue and profitability and digitize modern business operations. If you look at that, digitize modern business operations, right, was huge, 44% of people, okay? But if you look at the number one thing, it was drive greater operational agility and effectiveness. The number one way people do that is by digitizing. And so this kind of survey that went out by Forrester actually pointed out something that we thought was true across the industry, that there is a huge lack of awareness at what digitizing a business does, right? Because digitizing is how you drive operational agility. Most companies lack operational agility and effectiveness because they're not on modern systems, right? You're still stuck on a system that is making you do manual processes, which is why the next question is, what happens? What do you expect from modernizing, right? What do you expect from modernizing your business? The number one answer, what do you think? Improve operational efficiencies. So it's funny because people know the power and the effectiveness of being a modern, company, but we are very, I don't want to say ignorant, but we almost are, right? We are ignorant to the idea that we are stuck on a system that is making us operationally ineffective. Because maybe you like how it routes, or maybe you like how you can invoice, or you don't mind the flat file, right? You have Mike, who's been at your company for 20 years and knows everything. Well, eventually Mike's going to retire, right? I've got a long way to go, but eventually I am, right? And so being modernized is actually the number one way to increase operational efficiency. And then number two, the thing you all care about the most is customer experience. We got one question so far in the webinar, and it was, hey, how can I help my customers, right? It was what do you recommend when it comes to AI chatbots for customers? There you go, right there. Okay. Now, there's a lot of orange highlighting on here, so we'll take it one step at a time. But how challenging is it for your organization to execute on each of the following? This was a question, part of that survey, and here's what the answers were. 28% of people said that it was very challenging, and 46% of people said that it was a challenge. So what is that? About a math, 74%. 74% of people said that it was a challenge to share and distribute data externally. Think about that. Share and distribute data externally. 74% of people in the oil and gas space said that that was a challenge. That should not be a challenge, okay? If you are ready for AI, if you're thinking about AI, if you are even thinking about being a modern company, you need to own your own data, right? I bet you everybody on a phone doesn't like that they're getting tracked, right? Their stuff gets tracked. You're getting all sorts of different things, your advertisements, everything else, right? We all talk about that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're cautious about owning your own data on your phone, you need to be extremely aware of the fact that you need to own your own data as a company, right? And that goes into, maintaining data quality. 62% of people said it was a challenge to have quality data. Major problem. Like, we go back to that garbage in, garbage outside. If you don't have a high quality data set, an AI is not going to solve any problems for you, because it's just like how I said, ChatGPT doesn't know everything. You think it would, it's on the internet. But we all know not everything you see on the internet is actually fact, right? And so that's a big problem, is that it's learning from an inaccurate or non-high quality data set, okay? And then I think the two other ones that I would like to do is point out is driving real-time operational improvements. 55% of people said it was challenging. I do think that it's interesting that 55% of people said it was challenging to improve operations based on the data they have, but 62% said that their data was bad. So I guess more people think that they can make operational improvements off of bad data than they do think their data is good. So I don't know. And then lastly, the one that I'll talk about here is, share and distribute data internally. 43% of people found it challenging to share and distribute data internally. That is a problem, right? If you can't have internal communication, man, I mean, what do you think your customers feel like, right? I mean, they probably struggle there. And so getting your data put together, getting all of your stuff, organized is extremely important. And this survey was actually put out by DTN or by Forrester on behalf of DTN. So, it's an industry partner that almost all of you on this call probably rely on. And so I think the data here is pretty telling. All right, so why feel marketers invest in digital transformation? Ultimately, it comes down to three things. You got rapid growth and scale. Sometimes they're doing business continuity, so they're trying to bring a fourth gen business into the 21st century in one case. And then you have mergers and growth. Some companies are growing pretty fast and they want to continue to grow faster. And so they turn to high quality data systems. They turn into the best in class, systems to be able to run their companies. And then they see impacts, right? So in the rapid growth company right there, they were able to double their size in 3 years with 20 less trucks and 20 drivers. Think about that. They didn't need to hire more drivers or trucks, right? Yet they were still able to double their company's size and double their growth based on using a system that got them, modernized. And then, the fourth gen, business, you're getting rid of all the pen and paper and you're improving your capacity as a company overall, for drivers and dispatchers that save just so much time. Okay. You're taking a business that's stuck in old ways and bringing it to new times. And then for the merger and growth phase companies that may be on this call, it's all about cash, right? If you're buying companies and you're growing quickly, it's all about cash, right? The name of the game is cash on hand. So same day invoicing and better utilization of trucks and increasing your margins, right? Those are the key parts there. Okay. So why feel marketers invest in digital transformation? Most companies, I would say almost exclusively, companies start to look at AI or digital transformation in general, like switching your back office from, like I said, an ancient archaic system to something that isn't built on, like Microsoft Access or an Excel document. After they realize that they're just wasting too much money, they're spending too much money, their accounting is just atrocious, and they're trying to fix it. I think the back office is usually what people recognize first, because that's how you live and breathe as a company. And then from there, they start to realize that competition's growing and they need to grow. And then I would say that it's really the current process. So like most people get frustrated, employees start to leave the company, they start to go to other businesses and things like that because they're frustrated. And then costs start to go up. So you're paying more for labor, you're, trying to pay drivers more to keep them at the company, you're paying, 4 dispatchers instead of 2 because business processes aren't there. And then lastly, there's that small group of people that are actually ready to, have an AI make business intelligence decisions. So kind of think about that. Think about where you are and kind of where you're seeing issues, and if this kind of tells a similar story to what you went through. Some companies on this call could be already modernized, but think about what got you to get there, right? What one of these processes was the tipping point for your company to say, listen, we don't care. We know it's going to cost more money. We have to change because it's going to save us in the future. All right. I think this is an important question, right? Not just because we are a vendor, but mainly because I see people still go to businesses. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to companies that don't even allow for APIs. Don't know why, right? I don't. You're going to switch it out in 3 to 5 years because it's all coming really fast, right? Modernization's coming quick. So what do you need, right? You need people who, hey, look, we can work on a normal phone, right? We can work on a tablet. We're secure. We have security, right? SOC 2 compliance is huge, right? We're going through it right now, but it's massive. Not a lot of companies in this industry actually do that. That goes into data security. Cloud access. Are they even built on the cloud? Are they built on AWS? Are they built on Google, right? Are they built on Azure, which is Microsoft's system? Like, what are they built on? Is it a cloud or is it still on a server? Because it's on a server, they're probably going to be moving to a cloud in the future if they want to be a company in 5 years, right? Can they even give you reporting? Okay, can you create your reports? Can you use your data is what this means, right? Do you own your own data set? Is it easy to use? Okay, and if it's not, are they going to spend the time onboarding you? Are they going to train all your new hires, or are they going to expect you to do it, right? A system needs to be able to be easy to use, and your users should like using it. It should be very intuitive. It should make common sense, just like everything else that you use on a day-to-day basis. And is it a partner? Okay. Do they view you as a customer or as a partner? Because if they don't view you as a partner, they're not going to care when you come knocking on the door saying, hey, I need this, or hey, my company wants to go to this place. They're going to say, all right, sounds good. Give me all this money, and then we'll tell you it's going to be done in 3 years, right? I'm sure we've all heard that before. It's going to cost you X amount of money, and we don't know when it's going to be done, but we'll put it on the roadmap. That is not a partner. Okay, you have to be in the process. You have to see the designs. You need to be, you need to be a part of the day-to-day portion of that. And then, quick and easy support. You should have 24/7 support. You should be able to reach somebody. You should have a phone number. You should be able to, chat with a bot, whatever it is. You should be able to reach something to get support. And they need to ship features fast. Okay. You open your eyes every morning and you look at the news and it feels like the world is evolving by months in a matter of days because of how far technology has come, right? You can code an app in weeks. If companies are still taking months to ship features, right, or years for that matter, it's a major problem. Okay, that's a major problem. So to summarize everything out here, right, essentially what you're looking for is you've got to find a tech partner that you trust, and you need to digitize, and then you can implement AI in the areas that you think you're ready for. And then finally, you just monitor it. You explore all the other ways that you can use AI. You monitor how the AI is working. And, it seems like a pretty easy summary, but finding that partner is key. Okay, finding a partner that you trust. And lastly, and this is kind of it, people are saying this, but it's true. Look, AI is not going to ever replace you as a person. And if it did, we're we're a really bad spot as humanity. We're probably not going to be around for much longer, but it won't replace you. Humans that are using AI are going to be the things that do replace you. So leverage your data, be smart, get into the modern century, and I think you're going to be in a good spot. But outside of that, if you're ready, great. Find a partner, reach out to people. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Like I said, it's Mike W at fleetpanda.com. That's my email. Ted or whoever you guys are comfortable, you guys can send that out if anybody needs to reach me. I'm sure that's available, that's out there. If you have any questions, seriously, we're happy to help. But that wraps us up. I think we're good there, Ted.
All right, Mike. Again, I want to thank you and Fleet Panda for your time here today. And just I do want to remind everyone, if you have questions, you can still type them into the question feature and go to webinar. And I'm going to give that I'll give that about 30 seconds, Mike, to see if anything else comes in here. We have gotten a couple questions about the actual recording itself. You're going to be able to get a copy of that. We're going to be putting it on our YouTube page, and then we'll also be sending an automated email out 24 hours after the webinar is completed here. So just so everyone is aware of that. But we'll give it a couple more seconds to see if anything else comes in. Mike, do you have any kind of closing comments on your end before we do wrap up?
No, I think the biggest thing on my end before we wrap up is just one, thanking everybody for spending the time. I know it's early, early in the week and early in the day, right? It's only a Tuesday, but we appreciate everybody sticking around. They actually had a really good group of people that stayed throughout the entire thing. As long as you feel like you walked away, like I said, with those 4 key knowledge points of how to use AI, when, and all the things that need to be done to get you there, then I think we did our job right. But it's a mountain, right? You can't scale a mountain overnight. You got to take it piece by piece, and you got to do a lot of training, right? That training is just getting yourself ready mentally and your team specifically, right? All your drivers for just being modern and getting into a digital age.
No, thank you for that. One, we did have a question come in, I think a pretty simple one. Does your company integrate with, does your company integrate with AI virtual assistants? And then the second question would be, does your company do dispatching and scheduling?
Yep, that's what we are. Yeah, we are a Fleet Panda is a that's good. If you didn't walk away knowing what my company does, I did my job. Yeah, we are Fleet Panda is a digital dispatching company. We are unified dispatch, so we do everything from propane, bulk and cylinder propane. We do bulk and package lubricants. We do fuel, both everything across tank wagon, water extraction, transport, you name it. Everything's on the app. All the stuff you saw today, that's how we are. We're built on AWS, very modern system. Yeah, we have APIs. We have our own APIs. Anybody can connect to us. We can connect to anything. But yeah, we absolutely do our own dispatching, routing, all that stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that. I do not see any other questions that came. I got a thank you comment there, so I don't see any other questions that came in. Like I said, we are gonna share the recording. Feel free to reach out to me if you don't have Mike's contact info and you want to get it. We'd be happy to share that with you. Fleet Panda is a member of the PPA. They have been for a few years now. So don't hesitate to use me as a resource, but you can of course contact Mike directly. So with that being said, I want to just again thank everyone for their time and thank you for joining us early here this morning. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you.
All right. See you guys.